Welcome back to Quinta dos Magros. In this series, we explore shepherd life in biblical times and how it connects not only to the land of Israel, but also to our shared human story. In today's episode, we will be looking at the sheepfold, the shelter and safe place for the flock, and at how shepherds gathered and handled their sheep. Along the way, we will also reflect on what anthropology can teach us about this close relationship between people, animals, and community. A sheepfold is simply an enclosure, a safe resting place where the sheep are gathered at night or in times of danger. But sheepfolds in the biblical world weren't all the same. They could be very simple or more carefully built depending on the needs of the shepherd and the landscape. When a shepherd was far from home, especially in the mountains, he might make a temporary fold. This could be nothing more than a fence of thorn bushes or a rough wall of stones, just enough to keep the sheep together and discourage predators. Ezekiel even uses this image when God says, "I will feed Israel, my sheep, in good pasture, and they will rest in their fold." Sometimes shepherds used caves. There are many caves in the Holy Land, and these became natural shelters. During storms, the sheep could be let inside, while on calm nights they might be kept in an enclosure built outside the cave entrance. Ancient accounts tell us that even King Saul once rested in such a place, and David and his men were familiar with them too. And then there were the more permanent sheepfolds. These were built in valleys or on sunny hillsides, with stone walls 4 to 6 feet high. The walls were wider at the bottom and narrower at the top, with thorn bushes placed along the edges to keep out wild animals. Some folds had gates guarded by a watchman, hired to protect the flock at night. These weren't just practical shelters. They were also a symbol of safety and community. Because sheepfolds were such a familiar part of daily life, they became powerful symbols in the Bible. Jesus himself used this image when he said, "He that enters not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up some other way, is a thief and a robber." The fold represented safety, belonging, and the care of the true shepherd. Anthropologically, we can see this as more than just religious imagery. Across cultures, humans have always created enclosures, both physical and symbolic, to mark difference between inside and outside, between those who belong to a community and those who don't. The sheepfold was one of the simplest yet most meaningful examples of this. Shepherds didn't only watch over their sheep, they also had to handle and gather them, sometimes in challenging circumstances. At wells, for example, several flocks could be mixed together while drinking, but shepherds had no trouble separating them afterward. Each shepherd had a unique call, a sound known only to his sheep. When he called, the sheep lifted their heads, recognized their voice, and followed. Strangers could imitate the sound, but the sheep would not respond. This is something many of us who keep sheep still experience today. Sheep learn the voice of the one who cares for them. There is a bond of recognition, built day by day, in the routines of feeding, guiding, and protecting. When sheep became scattered, perhaps frightened by a predator or caught in a rough terrain, the shepherd would go out searching, calling until he brought them back safely. This work required patience, persistence, and a deep knowledge of the land. From an anthropological perspective, the relationship between shepherd and sheep is fascinating. Human societies around the world have developed unique ways of communicating with animals through whistles, songs, and calls. These sounds are not random. They are shaped by culture, by landscape, and by generations of shared practice. The shepherd's call is more than just a signal. It is a form of language between species, a dialogue of trust. And in return, the sheepfold is not only a physical structure, it is the visible sign of belonging, the place where the flock rests together in safety. So the sheepfold and the gathering of the sheep tell us more than just practical details about shepherd life. They reveal a whole world of meaning, of safety, of community, and of the bond between shepherd and flock. In our next episode, we will continue this journey by looking at protection of the flock, how shepherds defended their sheep from danger, and what tools, animals, and strategies they used. Thank you for joining me here at Quinta dos Magros. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to subscribe and share, and feel free to leave your thoughts or experiences in the comments. Until next time, may your flocks, whether they may be, find safe pasture and rest.